The Ohio State Buckeyes this year, no questions at quarterback. J.T. Barrett back as the clear-cut starter. He was great down the stretch last season, and it was an awfully good season for Ohio State. Won 12 games, were very impressive in their Fiesta Bowl win over Notre Dame. Fourth straight year with at least 12 victories. They did lose an awful lot off of that team. 6 starters back for Ohio State. 12 NFL draft picks for Urban Meyer's team, including 9 who left early for the draft. We take a look at the outlook for the Bucs. Certainly some very recognizable names coming back. A couple guys we visited with earlier, J.T. Barrett and Raekwon McMillan. The key departures, certainly that could have been an even larger category. Ezekiel Elliott enjoyed most of the 2 who made the list. But again, you have 12 players chosen in the NFL draft. You lost some real quality off that team. Urban Meyer here in Chicago at Media Days. And as you might expect, there's a little bit of interest in what the head coach of the Buckeyes has to say as he looks to get Ohio State back just a couple years removed from that national championship and perhaps back in that playoff hunt this year. We are very pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Buckeyes. And Coach, whenever you have that many players leave, I mean, the theory is you don't rebuild, you reload. And we get that, and you've recruited extremely well. But what are you most interested to see? I mean, certainly there are a lot of question marks. What are you anxious to get a look at?
Well, a gentleman asked a question a minute ago about depth. I see so much depth. The only thing that's missing is experience. And so Gerry knows this. How do you get the, and I've never spent this much time on practice schedules. Usually I throw it up on the board. Let's go to practice 2, practice. I've gone back, and I'm not 30 times on each practice where I just keep reviewing it. And is it a necessity? For example, second and long, how many times usually I scrimmage that a few times. And cluster formations, and I'll scrimmage that. I'm just going off the top of my head. But anytime you scrimmage it, there's a chance of injury. So I and our staff have to get these guys game ready in these situational ready, yet stay healthy. And I've never had it. Because last year was, how many times would Darren Lee have to be in that situation? He's good. Get him out and get the young guys in there. Now, Chris Worley's taken over that position. He hasn't been in that situation enough. So that's what's going to happen here in the next 3 weeks.
So how do the practices change? So what will be different about this first practice as compared to last year's first practice specifically?
It's much different. I've never had so much situational stuff this early in a camp. And the goods are going to be out there doing it. A lot of times, you start. How many times are you going to hit Zeke?
Right.
Zeke, you're fine. Get out of there. You're good. He had the pitch count. We do a pitch count just like the NFL baseball does.
Right.
How many times, when you look at our pitch count now, we're starting with 0 with most guys. There's 0 pitch count. Where Darren Lee had 1,100 of them. So it's just much different. And I think the biggest one is if you come early, which I think you are, you're going to see a lot of situational. At least early, and then my plan is situational early, then play. And you're going to see a lot of play it as practices move on, practice 12, 13, 14, because we've already done the situational. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
How much has technology helped you and your staff get to that point where they're ready to play on Saturday?
There's 2 things. Technology is we're over the top. Mickey Marotti. When I say pitch count, we really have one. And a part of the pitch count is what was his particular workload. Tyvis Powell we had to rest him every 3rd practice because he would go so hard and his body wasn't made to. So we would eventually have a breakdown if we don't pull him out of a practice or slow him down. So those are, and I go back to that same thought. How do you do that at pitch count during training camp yet still get him ready to go? And that's where Coach Marotti and I we've probably met on that, every day as we go through each practice.
You talk about the pitch count and you look at your offense, veteran quarterback, but young offensive line. Right. So you can't go as fast as you'd like with a veteran quarterback because of a rookie offensive line. So how do you blend it?
Well, I'm not so worried about pitch count with, when I talk about it's more contact.
Right.
So how many of these and this are you going to put in inside drill, scrimmage situations? The good thing about quarterback and receivers, you can get a lot of that done without contact. And so we'll wear those guys out on the 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, those kind of situations. I'm more worried about the O-line and D-line and linebackers, those type of players, that the only way to get them in that situation is that. and still stay healthy.
But with JT, if it was a veteran offensive line, the package perhaps could be bigger, right? But do you have to hold the package back a little bit, even though he's a veteran guy? The offensive line guys aren't veteran?
To be determined. You know, we have a very, Pat Elflein's your center.
Right.
And I think he's best center in college. He's best.
Right.
I've had some good ones at that one. Pouncey, Jacoby. We've had great centers. Corey Lindsley. But this guy, you know, and he controls the rope of the other four guys. So I'm hoping we don't have to do that.
Right.
Because Noah Brown was a starter. Corey Smith was a starter. Curtis Samuel's a starter. Mike Weber's not. So we have enough. Maybe they weren't officially starters, but Noah Brown was a starter before he got hurt. Corey Smith has played a lot of football for us. So I'm thinking we're going to go pretty quick.
JT's been in a situation going back a couple of years where he's been competing fiercely, whether it was one guy, two guys, to win that starting job. What have you noticed has been different for him this year when he doesn't have to look over the shoulder? And I know he's a competitor, so I'm not saying he's taking the foot off the gas, but what have you noticed that have been different in a positive way that's really going to help this team move forward?
Just, first of all, he's healthy. You know, this time last year he was not healthy. He did not. We had a great talk on the way out to the airport from Columbus, and it was good to hear him say, he said, I just didn't play very well during training camp. And JT, the reason I love him, he's so honest, he did not. He never beat out Cardell. And there's a multitude of reasons why. One, he wasn't healthy all the way. Second, he didn't get all the quality reps in spring. And then all of a sudden you're the backup. And so there's a lot of reasons why. I see a much different guy now. Now it's his first team offense. He's running the show.
How do you go about replacing Ezekiel Elliott's production?
It's going to be, you're kind of silly if you say we just move like Mike Weber in there and say get you 2,000 and move on. You know,
that was easy.
Right.
Curtis Samuel is going to be I've been bragging about him for 2 years, and he's basically just a hood ornament last year, and he's better than that. He has to stay healthy, but I love Curtis Samuel. He will come out of the backfield. Dontre Wilson now is 198 pounds. It was 170 some when we got him, so he's thick and he can run the ball. If you remember his first year, he ran the ball a lot for us. So I can see those three guys carrying the load for us. And then you have a kid, Antonio Williams, and then Mario McCall. So we have some bodies, but a lot of it's to be determined. The guys that aren't to be determined, Mike Weber will, Curtis Samuel will, and Dontre Wilson will.
What does Greg Schiano bring to your program?
Oh, it's hard to hire a friend. I've never really done that. You know, Steve Adazio is one that the head coach of Boston College, and you just have to be careful. He's removed from being a head coach. I was concerned about that, but he's a diamond, man. He's he's everything and more that I thought we hired him. He's a guy that I can have hard conversation with and get an answer that he doesn't care what I think. He's going to tell me what he thinks, and you need that so bad on a staff. And when you have a guy like Luke Fickell and Greg Schiano working together, I'm good, and they're really good.
9-game conference schedule. You like that?
I don't care. I've been asked that a lot. Yeah. I didn't even know. I mean, you just go. We got Bowling Green on September 3rd. I'm thinking about second and long play or BPU inside drill.
Whoever's next will play them.
Line them up.
So you can go to 10. You don't care.
I think we play 12.
I hear you.
See, he would have cared. He would have.
Well, it depends where I was coaching. I would care. You know,
right. No, I understand. You care a little bit differently when you're at Vanderbilt than when you're at LSU, right?
Right.
I've heard that spiel before.
Right.
So
you want to hear it again?
So is Urban, so we'll let him go. Right. Because he's had enough of us. Thanks a lot, Coach. We really appreciate it.
As always, great seeing you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.